Life of the World Champion Donaye and Senegal, Part 1. Baba Sy was a natural talent and in 1963 world champion of checkers. He spoke Pula, Fula language, also Wolof, Senegal's business language, then Arabic and French. However, in 1959 when he arrived in France, he could not even read or write. We know many things about his life in Holland, but very few people in this country could inform me about his life in Senegal. According to the people, Baba had two different lives and Baba did not manage to talk a lot of work about this exotic African country. This is the reason why I have investigated his life in this country. Baba told the people in Holland that he was born in Paul, a village belonging to the department of Dagana in the region of St. Louis in northern Senegal. His birth certificate is of this village. However, as we now know from his sister, Ali Mukulsi, officially, or better said, true is that Baba Sy was born in 1935 in Donaye, a village belonging to the department of Podor. However, his birth certificate is not of this place. The situation changed when Baba went to learn French in the town Paul, because there he came into possession of a birth certificate. Donaye was in those years a small village and recently it also had more of 1181 inhabitants. So, at the time of the birth of Baba Sy these people had far fewer people, probably not more than 500. It is one of the most inaccessible place in Senegal to tourists. All of them were ethnic tout couleur, strongly hierarchical by a class system based on caste and kinship. The top of the hierarchy made up the nobles to robes. These are powerful men with political, economic and religious power. To robes in Fulfud means the one who prays with us. Descendants of the ancient aristocrats and Usman Dan Fodio clan. Many of them have mixed themselves with Hausas and tout couleur. They are sedentary people, but retain their lands and their numerous herds, using vassals and servants to care for them. They have great wealth and have contact with the Western world. Their wives do not directly sell their dairy products, but sell them to an intermediary. In the case of Donaye, in 2000 the village was composed of 54% of Touareg, 8.5% of Subalb, 9% of Wayilb, 18% of Maku, 2.5% of Galankobi, and 6.75% of Puel. Donaye is located on the left bank of the Senegal River in Morphil Island. This village is situated 9 kilometers upstream from the city of Podor. It is a historic village, where El Hadji Omar Tall organized a number of his sermons. Donaye has a famous Omar Mosque of Sudanese architecture, built around 1870, which today is a National Historic Landmark. The village of Donaye was abandoned by its inhabitants in 1999 as a result of disastrous floods. The population was forced into a permanent residence in Tereji, a village about a dozen miles away, inside the country. Donaye today is a little gem for hikers, as the ancient village of the neighboring Mauritania. Donaye is characterized by a small mosque, cemetery, hundreds of houses or brick huts, partly in ruins, its narrow alleys between the houses, tall trees and the riverside. The Arabs had a commercial port in Donaye, which place was once a commercial center for the rubber and the slave trade. Seeing its proximity to Mauritania, it is not surprising that its neighbors spoke Arabic. Even in the abandoned cemetery of Donaye, we still see headstones with Arabic texts. In the Netherlands, more than one drafts player had told me that Baba did not speak Arabic, but his sister, Mukulsi Ali Baba, told me that Baba actually could speak Arabic and knew the Quran. The adobe or brick houses in Donaye, partially destroyed by the rain in 1999, offer breathtaking scenery and worthy of the people of Mauritania. The streets in Donaye are narrow, as is the case of the Arab villages. Donaye had many things similar to the famous villages in Mauritania, known for its architecture of earth or stones. The visitor here discovers walking fascinating parts of the walls, the elements of architectural beauty and majestic trees located in the middle of the empty places. More than one wants to settle its shadows to enjoy a good nap. Besides of that, it is a place with a wonderful view over the river. Today it is a special attraction for the traveler. 100 houses in ruins, being on one side of the river covered with beautiful trees, near a cemetery in the traditional beauty, and a small Amerindian mosque that survived the time and continues to host believers. The Mosque of Donaye resisted the flood. Today it remains a place of worship that can be accessed. The few families that left behind are very cozy, while the elders are always ready to visit their small mosque. The latter, though in poor condition and in need of restoration work to avoid being gradually ruined by rain, is an architectural gem of the Amerindian architecture. As I mentioned above, it was built in 1870. The Arab influence is noticeable in Donaye not only for its narrow streets and ways of building houses, because before 1989 many people of Toucouleur lived in Mauritania and logically speaking they had business contacts with people across the river. During the 1989 riots between Mauritania and Senegal, many inhabitants who were expelled from Mauritania were established on the side of the river Senegal, including the village of Donaye. The Arabs used to live in stone houses and to a lesser extent in straw huts. The Arab influence is greatly noted in the houses of Donaye. The adobe is the composition of wet clay, sand and straw, materials that are abundant and inexpensive anywhere. Adobe has the advantage that it supports making manageable and rounded forms of charming appearance and comfort that it offers because the adobe house is much cooler in summer and warmer in winter than the stones. We observed that Hamazl was another name for Donaye to the Mauritanian people, but there was still another name, that one of Cock Island in the 18th century when the village was full of green monkeys. The commercial interest of the French in the 19th century consisted of acacia gum obtained from the slaves of the Arabs. The Arabs had a commercial port Donaye, formerly a commercial center for the acacia gum and the slave trade. Baba Sy's father had to leave Donaye. We do not know the reasons, but by looking at the situation in the 80s we see that at least 77% of the inhabitants of Donaye left to other places. They were men between 20 and 45 years who still had enough strength to start again elsewhere, and the great majority had sought a new life in Dakar. Once established there, more than one Donaye regularly sent money to help their families. The people of Toucouleur speak Pilar, but his language is not called Toucouleur. Pilar is a Fula language spoken primarily as a first language by Fula people and Toucouleur or Torobe in the Senegal River Valley, traditionally known as Futa Toro. Other languages spoken by them is the Wolof. This is Senegal's commercial language. Many Toucouleur men have a basic knowledge of Arabic because of the Islamic Quranic instructions they receive in their youth. The Toucouleur village is Muslim in its heart and people are known as the defenders of the faith. It was for the Holy War that the Toucouleur religious leaders exported Islam to most of West Africa. The principles of Islam are an integral cultural value that permeates all aspects of the Toucouleur society. It is also said with pride, to have been born Toucouleur is to have been born Muslim. However, Islamic practices are inextricably mixed with traditional animistic ideas and occult folk rituals. Divination, witchcraft and magic, often practiced by the Islamic cleric, the Midibo, are widespread. Amulets and talismans are manufactured and sold by religious leaders. A belief in Baraga, supernatural power, is common and is thought that the religious leaders possesses the same and the reasons are sought for the miracles they can accomplish. Traditional beliefs in the nature of man and his destiny after death play an important role in Toucouleur outlook on life. The psychic stratum, which has been included, is tenacious. The impersonal life force, Fatandu, death is absorbed into deity, while the shadow of the soul, Milu, is the personal spirit, subject to the reward in heaven or punishment in hell. The distinction between these two spirits, however, is not as clear as one might expect, and are often confused. Islam has not brought any significant change in the psychological attitudes towards magic. The supernatural power, or Baraga, may be possessed by a renowned cleric, or may emanate from him, reflecting a strong Islamic Berber influence. The Toucouleur people are afraid of evil spirits. Certain actions are taboo to avoid offending the spirits. Amulets, talismans and leather pouches, in which they have sewn pieces of paper bearing Quranic verses, are used. They are put around the upper arm or around the neck or waist to defend against all kinds of evil. In the Senegal River Valley, manufacture and sale of talismans and amulets is a matter exclusively at two local clerics. Unfortunately, even with the high price of these talismans, one can never buy peace of mind and total security. Witchcraft persists despite Islam. In the future, each village has its own family of recognized witches. Those of Tukala believe that the substance of witches is inherited through the female, but not necessarily affect all children. People also use uninhibited exorcists who can also act as herbalists and rainmakers. Divination blooms with the most concerned about the power of guess the Islamic prescription. In fact, in most cases, the seer is a Muslim cleric. Spiritual authority is focused on the marabouts, the religious leaders and teachers. It is through these men how the lives of people is controlled. A person is living under the shadow of the marabout from the cradle to the grave. Whether to give a name at birth, for education, for the celebration of a marriage, for burial, or for healing or curse, the marabout is always present. We do not know what Baba Sy went to Mpole. Probably his family was forced to migrate to this place, since it is known that the father of Baba Sy was engaged in the cultivation of peanuts in Mpole. In another video, I will talk more about the life of Baba Sy.